Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here. And today I'm here to talk about adaptations. Specifically today, Red Nails. Robert E. Howard story featuring Conan the Barbarian and Valeria of the Red Brotherhood. Uh, both warriors, as anyone who reads this fiction knows. But we're going to look at two distinct adaptations and some pros and cons. The first one we're going to look at, well, what we're going to compare is the old adaptation done by Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith. And this is a superior adaptation, and we'll get to why. And then we're going to go with the current one that came out this year, Red Nails by Blaze Comics. Okay, with seem to focus more on a bunch of variant covers than actually adapting the story well. But that's just my opinion. Other people may love it. I think if you're a fan of the original story, you're going to have a lot of problems with this adaptation. And we'll get to that. So, the thing with Roy Thomas and Barry is they did a really, really faithful adaptation to the original story written by Robert E. Howard. And I'm going to get this a little closer, so we're going to take a good look at this. It didn't try to be anything the story wasn't, right? It just wanted to adapt a great Howard story in a comic form. And it succeeded thrilingly. And what Blaze Comics did was promise us the whole reason they're called the Sumerian. It's supposed to be a more mature adaptation of this classic story and of the other stories that they're developing. They already did Queen of the Black Coast. They have another one that just came out now, The People of the Black Circle, or I can't remember. I'm skipping right now, but anyway, they're on their third adaptation, which I have hopes for. They do some things I do like, but they've mostly been off for me. And here's what I'm going to show you. So, they're talking about a more mature take. So what does that mean? If you read the Barry Windsor Smith, Roy Thomas written adaptation, Barry Windsor Smith art depicts very mature characters. The way they're drawn is great. The action in it's mature. I never got a sense of a toned down Conan or Valeria or any of the supporting characters in this adaptation. We'll take some examples. So, and none of the story was left out. It was adapted pretty perfectly, in my opinion. So, in the beginning, the Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith drawn Red Nails, you see Valeria. All right, she's one of the major players of this story. This is a tale of her and Conan and surviving a lost city that they find. All right, drawn beautifully, drawn well. You have her and Conan meet. And they are forced to confront a beast that's waiting them out on top of the hill, basically knowing that they'll starve to death or have to come down and try to fight it, in which it'll eat them. That's just the beginning, kind of setting them up to get along and how they're going to interplay with each other. Just a splash from it too. So as you can see, this is pretty mature art. I don't know how they were going to make it more mature. Now look at these beautiful panels. Look at the detail in the forestry from Barry Windsor Smith. And what I like is this really depicts their peril and their hardship. So when they're fighting, it's visceral. You got Conan and Valeria fighting the beast to survive after they poisoned it, and they're just trying to outrun it. Valeria's taking a tumble. Conan's in full battle. Not pulling any punches. So when the work is being done, when the characters are struggling, The key plot points are there, right? Nothing's skipped. You got Valeria in battle. And just one beautiful panel after another depicting this fierce fighting scene. And you want mature, adult, story-driven art? Look at the sweat on her face from the battle. Look at the grimace. Look at the set eyes. Look at the blood on the sword. All right? This is the lurker from the catacombs. And there's a whole section in this adaptation that Ablaze Comics just leaves out, which just puzzles me a few times. There's more than one. But, again, this is being touted as a more mature adaptation. I've read the original Robert E. Howard story countless times. Of course, by now you know this is my favorite adaptation. There's nothing about this that doesn't seem not mature. So when we get into Red Nails, which I was super excited about, one of my favorite Robert E. Howard stories. The art, a little stylized. It may work for you. It may not. It didn't strike me as decidedly more mature. And once you get inside, just seems a little more cartoony to me. A little less weight. Not the mature experience they're telling you about. And I think where they push the maturity is in some of the scenes, Valeria is a little less clothed than she is in this adaptation. I don't care about the clothes. If you take her shirt off, it doesn't mean anything to me. I want the story to be good, all right? Because you showed more skin doesn't make this a better story. So, sorry, Ablaze, that doesn't work. They do some good stuff. Not totally knocking. They have a cool design for the dragon that they meet, the dinosaur. They do pit a good battle. And they do have a good running. Again, Valeria not really looking like the fierce warrior that we're led to believe she is. Just kind of a little Barbie cutout tagging along with Conan. And as the adaptations go, one of the main story points here is Valeria and Conan are separated for a minute while he explores, she rests, and she comes across someone that she ends up helping. He's being pursued by another person. There's two warring factions in this huge city. Everything else in the city is dead. And they're going to keep warring until one of them's dead, and then eventually they're both going to die off. So it's already a little grim. There's this big hubbub about this mask that subverts your will and allows you to be murdered by this by the person wearing it. And where you get just some really great art of the mask here, and of the person wearing it. Just incredible panels. And then you just get Valeria, after killing the person, just smashing the mask to pieces so it can't affect anyone else. Which is nice. In this adaptation here, you get a little bit of the monster, just a little glowy. Kind of Scooby-Doo-ish, right? And there's nothing wrong with Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo, but I'm not looking for Scooby-Doo and Conan. Then you got one panel of the mask staring at her. That's it, one panel. And the big climatic smash in is left to a little side panel in the corner with just her arm smashing a mask, and kind of anticlimactic, kind of ho-hum, all right? As these adaptations progress, they're being led to one half of the city by the guy that Valeria saved. He's trying to help them. They're trying to find a way out. after the doors they went in sealed, of course. You can't enter a lost city without getting sealed inside. Um, there's a whole encounter on the way that's skipped in the Ablaze comics, which is a pretty cool part of the original adaptation and of the original story itself. It still cements these three characters now that are traveling together as a team, and kind of gives you a feel of what's happening and the menace that's presented by the other side. That menace is diminished in this one because you skip that whole scene of this monster pursuing them that's controlled by the other side. So take some of the drama out of it. As the story progresses, you meet a king, you meet a queen. I don't want to get too much into story details. They get that part a little bit right, but then they skip a key scene where Valeria's alone in a room, and something happens in there which sets up later circumstances. I don't want to tell you what it is in case you're going to read it or haven't read it, but to me it was important because it sets up what happens later on in the climax of the story. Kind of gives you an insight as to what one of the characters that they encounter is thinking in relation to Valeria. But we'll move on. There's an assault on the place, and the reason it's called Red Nails is on the side that Conan and Valeria are on with the one set of people. Every time they kill someone from the other side, it's a red nail in a pillar, right? So you're counting the nails until everybody's done. Every time you kill someone, a red nail goes in. All right, simple enough, right? After the assault, the other side that Conan's fighting against with Valeria and the people are diminished greatly. Conan suggests they need to go over there and make sure there's no one left and they finish them off before they can regroup. He's a warrior and a strategist, and the king allows Conan to go, but Valeria took a cut on her calf during the fight, so she's staying there. He has designs on her, as does another character, both for their own reasons. He wants her to be his new queen. The other character wants to take her body over to keep herself young. A character that's ages and ages old, has been living from taking over one body to another. Now, Conan goes over there and it goes with the team, kills the remaining people, and then is betrayed and they try to murder him. They change that up a bit, and it doesn't serve the story well. The Roy Thomas adaptation stays faithful to the story, so it works. Ablaze changes it. I don't know why you change it. It reads better and ties the story together better the original way it is. The glue's tighter. From there, Conan survives and moves on. He finds that Valeria has been taken, and he runs across the king who was betrayed by his now queen. The queen that wants to take Valeria's body and make it hers and pass herself into that to stay young. Take the sacrifice Valeria for her youth. And so Conan finds the king betrayed. He's tied to a large stone with a pendulum coming down, and he's gonna die. Conan frees him to lead him to where Valeria is being kept by this queen. So in both adaptations, Conan finds the king, strikes a bargain with him, and frees him. The king in this version hits Conan from behind. They get in a struggle. Conan chokes and kills him to death. In this story, the Red Nails adaptation, they change that completely. Conan isn't the one who kills him. It's someone else from the story, which makes no sense to make the change. And from there, a revived wizard shows up. Battle ensues. There's more changes. Let's just say the this story stays true to, this adaptation stays true to the Howard written story. The Ablaze Comics one doesn't, which really leaves me wondering, because the one thing I like that Ablaze Comics did is they included the original source material in the back of their comics, of each adaptation, right? So you get the original story with each adaptation, which just puzzles me. If you're going to include the original story, why would you change it so much when you adapt it? It just seems like a bunch of missed calls. The story doesn't read smooth. Their adaptation reads rushed. And the things they change are just plot conveniences, which don't string together nicely, which don't make sense. Whereas it seems like Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith just focused on getting right what was on the written page and adapting the story as it was originally told. And just to give you a comic visual transfer from the written page to the illustrated page, and done brilliantly by Barry Windsor Smith when he illustrated. I mean, just look at the creep factor right there of how this dude's drawn. Just great. And just looking at it here doesn't even give it justice. And then there's just a comedic way, almost kid-like Scooby-Doo way that things are drawn here. It's just, he's instead of this supernatural entity, he's basically just a withered old man back from the dead. Just misses the bar. So it puzzles me because I like what they were trying to do. Robert E. Howard's Savage Hero Uncensored is how it's touted, right? It's not uncensored. There's nothing more mature about this adaptation than this adaptation. The only difference between these two is better art by Barry Windsor Smith. And I know that could be subjective. If you like the Ablaze ones, there's nothing wrong with that. What works for you works for you. But storytelling, the shortcuts Ablaze took, it's not uncensored. It's just altered. And it doesn't work. But that's just my thoughts. If you've read both, let me know what you think. That was just a quick adaptation review. And that was just a quick adaptation review. And let me know what your guys' thoughts are on it. This company, in my opinion, has been missing the boat on it, where the original adaptation hit all the right notes. I know there's a few of you that have read both versions, so let me know in the comments what you think. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and until next time, keep it casual.